Bitcoin hits all-time highs at nearly 100,000 as the industry celebrates multiple pro-crypto news stories. But are things getting too overheated? We cover all this right now in the Collective Shift weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. Nick, we're at 99,000 for what felt like a lifetime and all the way back now.
Yeah, it was about, I think, 0.2% or something away from 100,000. Checkmate did a great post for members on the platform this week. Tough going, but back towards 90,000, I think. So excited to see how long this pullback will last. Is this kind of what we should expect is the norm now? These sort of smaller drawdowns, considering just how much demand there is for Bitcoin in the market, which I'm sure we'll get to very soon.
Yeah, for sure. And just heading into the weekly price action, Bitcoin actually slightly up still on the week, so at around 92,000 US dollars the time recording. ETH is up 7% on the week. Some other majors such as Solana are slightly down by 2%. XRP notably up 30% over the past 7 days, and we've also had the crypto market cap, or the combined market cap of the entire asset class, is also hit an all-time high in recent days of nearly 3.5 trillion US dollars. So that includes stable coins as well, which have also, from last time I checked, also slightly hit an all-time high as well. So yeah, all really exciting times here in the crypto space. Things are playing out sort of, more or less as we expected, particularly after the Trump election in early November. And some big reasons for the price action, of course, as many of you who have been following the space particularly closely would know, would be MicroStrategy's. They've continued to bid up Bitcoin and suck up some of the available supply. So Nick, you can cover this one.
Yeah, I did a newsletter last week on this exact same topic, essentially saying, hey, look at this big wave of Bitcoin demand that's just flooding the market. And I think a key reason why we really haven't seen those 30% drawdowns as much this year and in this bull market. So just actually in the last couple of days, they made another biggest Bitcoin purchase ever. So essentially, I think they made 3 of these in the last few weeks. And this latest one was for 5.4 billion, scooping up. And then this builds on another 4.6 billion, I think it was last week. So tons of Bitcoin. It's like $10 billion of Bitcoin that they just bought in the last couple of weeks. Difficult to to not appreciate how big this is, really. And as we said here for members, this has actually got quite outdated quickly, Matt, as they made the biggest Bitcoin purchase. And we saw even big, a lot of big, I think, public companies and even a few private companies that have come out and said that they're going to be buying Bitcoin as a, treasury asset. I counted about 8 or 9, about 10 of these public companies that said that they were going to buy Bitcoin. And a notable one here was Rumble, who said that they were going to look into it. Michael Saylor actually has converted him on Twitter, to talk about adding Bitcoin to their treasury. And no behold, in a couple of days later, come out, Rumble is now going to be dedicated about $20 million worth of buying Bitcoin as a Bitcoin treasury asset. So huge amounts of Bitcoin being scooped up by institutions. And I think it's a real deal now that Bitcoin is being used as a treasury asset. We've kind of hoped this was going to be the case in 2021, but didn't really see too many adopt it. But this has really taken a huge step forward just in November alone.
Yeah, it's really pleasing to see the adoption this quickly, and I'm sure this corporate adoption of purchasing Bitcoin will continue even all the way heading into May of next year when we have the Bitcoin 2025, which MicroStrategy is always a big part of. I'd be shocked if there wasn't more companies coming out in the months ahead, sort of getting on board with this. With this plan. We've seen the stock price of Rumble actually increase quite significantly based off of this. So we'll sort of see if this continues, and particularly a really a nice chart that just illustrates the supply dynamics and the demand dynamics of what MicroStrategy is doing on the price of Bitcoin is, of course, this chart by River here, showing just the impact of MicroStrategy's purchase. And they do other really nice visualizations, just accumulating and just, I guess, demonstrating, the combined purchase power of MicroStrategy plus all these other names that Nick has, mentioned, such as Rumble, Metaplanet, even Marathon Digital, of course. Tether is one we've been consistently sort of reminding members to pay attention to and many other corporations now purchasing Bitcoin. So all that in a year where we've actually had the halving. So we've gone from 900 Bitcoin being added to circulation per day. Now we're actually at 450 Bitcoin being added per day. So the supply dynamics are even a bit less of an impact, but all the while the demand for Bitcoin seems to be increasing. So we'll continue to focus on this because it is a massive story of 2024, and it has all the signs of being an even bigger story next year.
And that chart too doesn't even include the latest 5 billion purchase from MicroStrategy, because I think that graphic was from in November 19 after they made their biggest one. So, even imagine another good chunk higher on that bar graph.
Yeah, nice. Okay, we just got back from Aus Crypto Con, so Australia's largest crypto conference. Happens every year towards the end of the year, and yeah, that was really a really great experience. I'll get up on my screen here the post, but just from me, it was great to see what was the largest Aus Crypto Con so far, their third installment, and just the energy and enthusiasm in the room on both days was something to behold, and just really encouraging for us as a team to see how much interest was in the space. There was people from all different backgrounds of experience levels, and yeah, Sydney certainly put on a show for us as well. With the weather was very nice. So I'll get the post up here, Nick, if there's any other sort of takeaways from yourself from the weekend.
Yeah, for me, the weekend was just the sheer turnout for a lot of our members. I was anticipating to see a good handful of members, but was really encouraged just to see how many actually came and turned out. And Collective Ship ended up kind of taking over the member lounge and dominated the convention, which I was really excited to see. Probably on my highlights too, even the Collective Shift team, Ben got up for his Blockies win that happened on the Thursday before it. So that was super encouraging to see. A lot of the hard work the team have put in really starting to pay off at the convention, but really couldn't help but shake the feeling that, hey, we were there in the last two conventions. Obviously, market conditions are much different. I expected to see a lot of euphoria, but that was really confirmed, I think, when we got to the event. Just how excited, how much speculation, and just how much FOMO is starting to really creep into the market. Really seeing a lot of similarities to that 2021 market. And given how much we're tracking on previous markets, it's encouraging to see that, hey, looks like despite that high euphoria in the market, we're still kind of tracking, the previous market, suggesting there is a bit of upside still, despite how euphoric things are getting, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well with things like Pump.Fun that have garnered a lot of controversy this week in the market.
Yeah, for sure. We've got quite a bit more to get into for the week, but yeah, it was a great weekend. I know the Aus Crypto Con team, they work so hard on improving the conference every year, and they've announced actually next year's installment, which will actually be more or less the same date from my understanding, and it is confirmed in Sydney once again. So I believe the early bird tickets are on sale for anyone interested, but if it's anything like this weekend, I'm sure it'll be an absolutely brilliant weekend next year. So yeah, there was a lot of news while we were over at the convention, as you would imagine, given how high Bitcoin was going, a lot of volatility, and that was driven partially by some news out of Donald Trump. As I get up on my screen here, there was a really big appointment of Howard Lutnick as the upcoming sort of Secretary of Commerce. So a really notable position there in Trump's team, very highly, I guess, a highly touted role. And why did this matter? Why did the crypto market like this? It's because Howard Lutnick's firm has been a long-term supporter of Tether, essentially. So Cantor Fitzgerald has more or less been there to bank and support Tether, the corporation behind the largest stablecoin, in an environment where not many banks were willing to take the risk of banking and servicing Tether. So they have, I guess, more or less benefited as Tether has grown. We actually saw last week what was also news that I saw as pleasing in a sense was that Lutnick and I suppose Cantor Fitzgerald has acquired 5% of Tether. So aligning the incentives there between, well, essentially the Trump team indirectly, but also Howard Lutnick's firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, which, as Nick and I covered, I believe after the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, the famous one where Trump spoke at and said he would fire Gary Gensler, a big news item from that conference, which got a bit less headlines and press, was actually Cantor Fitzgerald's announcement that they were going to be, announcing or releasing sort of a service that allowed people to borrow against their Bitcoin, which has always been such a major growth catalyst for Bitcoin that Nick and I have discussed over the years. So again, really important appointment here with Howard Lutnick heading up the Commerce Department. And we'll see what comes of that as he continues to sort of select his closest advisors. So one to pay attention to. I think Cantor Fitzgerald is really in for a big 2025.
Yeah, we're excited to see a lot of these pro-crypto appointments. That was one of the big things we were looking for with the Trump victory. There was another one, I think, that Trump announced his Treasury Secretary, which was Scott Bessent. So he was also tipped to be pretty crypto savvy and a real crypto advocate. So we're seeing pro-crypto names really start to flood a lot of these key positions, which is super encouraging to see. And I think that's going to be a big thing that defines next year as well.
We've also got the Trump's media sort of company in talks to acquire Bakkt. So that's BAKKT for anyone listening. That's also, they used to be quite a big deal back when they launched. Their connections to ICE, the Intercontinental Exchange, which is a really big infrastructure player in traditional finance. So if that goes through, that would be even, I guess, more promising signs that Trump's team is going to be more aligned with growing the crypto pie, so to speak. So for all those people who were saying Trump was just pandering to the crypto crowd to get votes, that certainly has been invalidated, in the weeks since he has been elected. And I suppose just on that, Trump had always promised to fire Gary Gensler when he is inaugurated in late January. However, it looks like that is not going to be required, with Gary Gensler saying that last week that he will be stepping down actually on the day of the inauguration. So Gensler has, about a bit under 2 months left at the helm. And this, again, was widely celebrated within crypto circles, given, as we've talked about for many months and even a couple of years now on this podcast, all the reasons why Gensler had been, I guess, negative for the whole crypto market and industry. He's now going to be leaving, which has been seen as very, I suppose, bullish in a way for the industry's growth potential, as well as therefore the market. So that absolutely was really big news. And we saw another of the 5 SEC sort of the SEC higher ups. I forgot what the board members, Gensler being the lead of them. We actually saw one of the other board members announce that they will be resigning. So they are from the Democratic Party, and one of them, that person, I can't remember their name, but that person actually voted against the spot Bitcoin ETF back when it was approved, in early January. So that person also, viewed, at least not pro crypto, definitely, but I think something more like, anti crypto or crypto neutral. If you really try to squeeze it and be optimistic, they are also now stepping back from the SEC. So I suppose some spots to fill there in the SEC, and a really powerful and important agency when you're talking about crypto's potential. So that's one we'll also be watching heading into next year. Okay, next one here, we have Bitcoin options going live.
Yeah, this is a big one that was probably underestimated from the market as well. All the focus was on, Bitcoin price at 100K, a lot of MicroStrategy buying, but obviously Bitcoin's options went live, and these are attached to the ETFs. And they saw a lot of high volume and interest, which is really encouraging. I think BlackRock's product did about 1.9 billion of total volume on the opening day, which I was seeing a lot of Bloomberg ETF analysts were saying was quite unheard of. So we're seeing what we saw initially with the launch of the ETFs. They saw stronger than expected demand, especially when compared to traditional financial products when these ETFs and options are launched. So huge amount of interest in Bitcoin options. And this will only make the products more sophisticated, which are really necessary for these bigger institutions to continue stepping into the market, as it's been an obvious thing that the market's lacked. The crypto market really hasn't had the same, I guess, infrastructure and financial products and sophistication that would otherwise be available if it was, a traditional financial product or in sort of ETF circles. So huge unlock there for the space, which I know Checkmate also stressed the importance of in another member live video.
Yeah, another milestone for ETFs and Bitcoin at large in 2024. So great to see this coming in before the year came to a close, and really successful launch there. Of course, another, I guess, not so savory piece of news that came out during the week, but is definitely worth discussing, given it is really, I guess, tied to sentiment levels, is Pump.Fun. So they suspended their live stream feature amid sort of backlash from the community. So we won't really go into details. I don't think anyone really needs to hear what the nature of the videos were, but they were essentially just repulsive and dangerous content. I think you can sort of draw the lines of what the live streams were sort of, the nature of the live streams, and associating them then with tokens and meme coins, which were then trying to be pumped up and made into meme coins that graduate and go on to, essentially just make people money very quickly. So that was a big controversy, and in a sense is sort of, at least at the time of recording, marked a local top for meme coins. Sort of, I guess everyone's taking a deep breath and wondering just how crazy things have gotten in terms of sentiment and people's greed levels and risk appetites. And that sort of ties in to a really, I guess, another prime example that happened last week with the TikTok kid, or the $ quant was the token. Essentially, he went viral around crypto circles, at least. I'm not sure how much more viral. He also went maybe in TikTok of stealing essentially $30,000 on his sort of meme coin that he created, only for the crypto investors or crypto traders to sort of come back and pump the token up well in excess of 30K. It was a very degenerate, very high risk, speculative. I suppose the reason we're covering it here is it's a really good temp check or a pulse check on just how extreme the greed is at the moment, and how high the sentiment has become on the outlook for crypto. So these stories are, I guess, really offset that balance, and maybe a sign when we look back that, hey, there was a really a strong signs of there being a local top, and a sign that the crypto market sort of was due for a breather for several weeks, potentially several months.
Yeah, you always get the sense when you see a lot of this money being made, especially in altcoin, in the meme coin market. It brings me up to a lot of kind of a throwback to the NFT boom. Similar things we're seeing with the meme coins at the moment. It was back in 2021 where you could really just launch any kind of NFT project that were launched every single day, many at a time, to huge demand. A lot of gains were being had. Now, very similar of what's happening in this space where anyone can really get on, perform a bit of a what's called a rug pull in this case here, where people are just pumping up whatever tokens possible on live streams, and then cashing out for quite a large sum of money. It's probably even more exaggerated, to be honest, because meme coins are being launched at an unparalleled space, even to the NFT, because NFTs themselves had to have some sort of art and community behind it, whereas meme coins just can be launched overnight. And then, as we can see, live streams and pumped up on platforms, which are even being more accelerated with the likes of TikTok becoming even more popular in the last few years. So yeah, I just said that great temp check. And that's definitely one I'm going to remember too. If next year does mark a top, when we're seeing this type of behavior in the market, I think it's definitely unsustainable. And they had to pause the live streams. Really crazy story. I encourage people to check it out.
Yeah, well said there. Crypto apps as well. Naturally with the price action of Bitcoin, we saw apps, so crypto mobile apps people use to buy and sell cryptocurrency. They really rocketed up the app rankings. So often these are the US rankings that people are screenshotting and whatnot, and they also have the category specific rankings, also the global rankings. So more importantly is the global rankings in terms of no category specific. So I suppose US, in the US, just any app can be in this total sort of global rankings, and Coinbase got up to 9th in the US. So that is very, very significant in terms of just, again, gauging sentiment and gauging retail interest. Also Robinhood really spike up the rankings, and even the likes of Phantom, so Solana's most popular sort of wallet, and the MetaMask equivalent on Solana, which has actually expanded to Ethereum and Base in recent times. They also surged up the mobile sort of downloads ranking on iOS. And also I saw, I think two others that I'm keeping an eye on in this bull market are Moonshot, all one word, and Slingshot, all one word. Very, very similar names. They're sort of ones that are really trying to, Moonshot is more for meme coins. Slingshot, I think, does a bit of both, but are really driven for that mobile UX. So I'm keeping an eye on those two as well. But yeah, to see Coinbase up this high, it was again a really strong sign that, hey, maybe things are due for a bit of a cool down. This continues to be a very, very strong indicator when you're talking about overlapping it with Bitcoin's price action. Very simple, but it just works, Nick, doesn't it?
And I think we talked a lot about probably euphoria now in the market, which was probably top, to be honest. We're going back to the crypto convention. Didn't have a drone show going with Bitcoin on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. That's always a nice signal to say, hey, well, look at where we are in the market right now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely jotting that down as a point to come back to maybe if things do keep getting overheated. We've got up here some altcoin news. So a lot of altcoin news really over the past week or two, given the market's coming back. I think a lot of altcoins maybe potentially holding some announcements ready for more rampant market conditions, which we've certainly seen. So the first one this week is BitTensor. They're, I guess, related to BitTensor. You've got DCG, or Digital Currency Group. They've decided to launch a subsidiary called Yuma, YUMA, and that subsidiary is essentially sort of going to be a development studio and an incubator and accelerator, really just to support the whole BitTensor ecosystem. So DCG has been around a very, very long time. They've gone through some difficult times since 2021, particularly between 2021 and 2023. They're sort of coming out the other side with a lot smaller sort of, valuation collectively. However, Barry Silbert is putting his reputation on the line here to see if Yuma can help support BitTensor moving forward. So that's one we're keeping an eye on for sure, and we've been looking into quite a lot in recent months.
So now I think pivoting to a lot of layer one blockchains, I saw a lot of news coming out from Monad, which is finally unveiling its testnet. So that started some transactions on this testnet. It's been one of the blockchains I think a lot of us have looked to. I know you in particular might have been following this one closely, gathered a lot of money in investment from a lot of big VCs. But we're also wondering how long until they launch. Will they kind of miss the bull market because they've taken a bit of a longer time to get going, like your Aptos and Sui's, which were really early and probably launched at the most opportune time possible. So big launch here, and I think they're going to look to potentially start to hit a mainnet into 2025. So a big one to pay attention to there. I also saw Sui, they come out and experience some significant outage, failing to produce blocks for a couple hours. So this was a bit of a concern for Sui, but to be honest, I think Solana has kind of normalized some of this downtime before, because I noticed Sui token didn't really experience the large drawdown you would expect, with a blockchain that went down, and something that Solana did experience very early on in its life cycle, where it would have downtime and price would correct quite significantly. Now it's kind of like we're just used to this, I guess, and more acceptance is on some of these blockchains that are still scaling, very early stages. Downtime is kind of to be expected these days, which wouldn't have been the case a couple of years ago.
And we have Bitwise, probably the industry's largest crypto asset manager. They have registered a statutory trust in Delaware, proposing a spot Solana ETF. So the drumbeats of a potential Solana ETF, I'm sure, will continue to get louder as we go into next year. And that will just continue sort of making headlines, as well as probably the other low-hanging fruit. Like, I think there's talks about an XRP ETF, even a Dogecoin ETF, honestly, wouldn't be that surprising. I think the next three I can see being that batch of Solana, XRP, and Doge. And then I know, Nick, you've talked a lot about ETH staking, also a potential sort of upgrade to the existing ETH ETF. They're probably the ones we'll keep an eye on in 2025. And also, just to wrap up the altcoin one here, we saw Sky launch their USDS stablecoin. on the Solana network as well. So they have added a lot of incentives to, I guess, uptake, to incentivize sort of an uptake of the USDS stablecoin on Solana. So it looks like that's being taken up naturally. And as we said over the years, a lot of times you have to sort of look at what happens once those incentives go away. But for the meantime, those incentives seem to be being effective. So yeah, worth keeping an eye on that as well. In terms of looking ahead, the one thing we're focused on here as a team is the Investor Growth Summit that we have. So on all things crypto, every category really that you've heard us talk about, we're looking to do a free event just covering everything you need to know as we wrap up the year in crypto. It's completely free. You can secure your complimentary spot over on our website. So that's just collectiveshift.io/summit. We may drop the link in as well. But yeah, a lot of speakers you can check out on the website as well. And yeah, excited to be doing that later next week. In terms of our rapid fire, underappreciated or overappreciated, Nick, I'll just give it over to you. What have you got for us this week?
So the first one was that a court in the US started to, I guess, overturn or push back on a dealer definition that was pushed onto crypto by the SEC. So this would have basically said that a lot of DeFi applications and protocols would have had to come up with the same requirements as traditional broker-dealers. So this would have had a significant impact on the industry, because this meant that a lot of it may not actually be really that compliant, or the cost to be compliant would have been so high that a lot of these DeFi protocols may not actually be able to do it. So this is a huge win now that this lawsuit has sort of been pushed. We may see like a sort of appeal, but big announcement that I think cannot be understated enough, as this was a key concern for a lot of DeFi protocols. The other one as well that happened in the last hour was a bit of a stunning victory in one of a key crypto court case surrounding Tornado Cash, who famously was put on the US sanctions list because of so-called money laundering by the likes of North Korea, who were laundering some money through an open crypto protocol. This was such a big deal because it really shook the idea of decentralization, and could the US government hand down sanctions on a smart contract protocol that wasn't controlled by anyone. So this was a huge deal and a real pillar court case for the industry. So big win here. And I think we're going to only start to see maybe more confidence go back into these protocols. And it's really good encouraging sign to say, hey, maybe this overreach on crypto by US authorities may start to be reaching a bit of a limit here.
Thanks for the rundown there, Nick. I'll also go underappreciated this week is on Fluid, or the InstaDApp, I guess, project. They're really starting to catch the momentum. I've been watching them closely the last sort of week or two in terms of this new protocol that they are launching, which is, for a long time, there's been a lack of innovation in the DeFi space. And from my understanding, Fluid is sort of bringing a new offering where they more or less combine decentralized exchanges and lending into sort of one framework, all in an effort to sort of, I suppose, help users earn a lot more yield and essentially pay down their lending or how much they're lending quicker. So they're actually able to sort of provide liquidity through a DEX, like something like Uniswap, and sort of that reward or that return automatically goes back to paying down the lending, the amount lended. So this is something I've been meaning to research for a couple of weeks or so. I'm sharing it here as underrated because I can see it gathering some steam, and the INST token, or INST, the InstaDApp team is looking to overhaul their tokenomics. We've seen Aave DAO actually propose taking out a percentage of their treasury portfolio and investing it into INST. So that's currently being voted on, from my understanding. But yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen any innovation in DeFi. So I'll link this in the show notes below, and keep an eye out on Fluid. But yeah, that does bring us to a close here. Again, check out the Investor Summit. So that's collectiveshift.io/summit. And also you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter. So that is, again, covering all the most important parts of the crypto space in a given week. We know the volatility, and there's so much news coming out now. So that newsletter is your go-to place to just get a pulse check and understanding of what's going on. So you can subscribe to that at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.